Okay, yeah. So another video. Protracted withdrawal and anger. I'm sitting here, getting ready to go out, go to the library. I'm doing a little bit of trading. I'm doing a little bit of job searching, and I'm angry. I'm angry. I've cried a bit. It was like a happy cry. It was like yeah, this feels good. But this is all part of this is what the video. This is what I want to talk about. This is all part of the healing process. Um, you go through these flare-ups. They call them waves and windows. Now, when I was going through protracted withdrawal from paroxetine in 2021, it was less waves and windows. It was more a nightmare. At first, for the first year and a half to 2 years, it was just solid daily pain with no breaks, no windows. And that's what you get from coming off of an antidepressant when you've got a sensitive brain, a sensitive chemical I don't know. But when you've got something that is very sensitive to coming off with, because some people don't get this. Some people don't get the withdrawal. I did. And when you crash, it causes, like I say, I've said this in the other video, it causes a tear, causes a damage, scarring in the emotional side of your body. And if it's extreme, like it was with me, it lasted 6 years. The first 2 years were solid, what it sounds like, solid pain, crying, screaming, couldn't sit down, couldn't stand up, couldn't sleep, couldn't stay awake, couldn't do anything. So what did I do for 2 years? How did I get through that? So I'm proud of myself. Then after the 2 years, you could think it's maybe even worse in some way, because you get this break. You wake up one morning and you've totally forgot who you are, because you've been through just non-stop pain. I forgot not who I was. I forgot how to feel. So I was totally terrified all the time of why I was feeling a little bit better for a day, just a day. Totally terrified, because I knew all I'd experienced was pain. So that's, basically it's PTSD, isn't it? It's like you wind yourself up so much, like the soldiers, bless them, the soldiers who go through constant, war, and all the experience is one negative experience, non-stop, being shouted at, being shot at, being constantly in fear, so that they develop PTSD. That's what happens when it's day in, day out, and you go past that point of, oh, that was bad, and now I feel better, because it doesn't go away. So you develop PTSD. So that's what happened to me. So I'm sitting here today because I'm trying to come off venlafaxine, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, I didn't feel upset or anything. I felt the shakes. I wanted to get something done quickly, get somewhere quickly, whatever it was what my brain was saying do. So I thought, eat. So I made two sausages and a cup of coffee, because food, for some reason, even during the withdrawal, was a lifesaver. But you can't eat like that. I went obese and whatnot, and luckily I've lost 10 stone since then. Another thing I'm proud of. But you get these waves like I've had today. It wasn't as bad as the last video I made. It's kind of it felt nice, kind of. I just started crying, smiling and crying. Nothing. Like filled with the Holy Spirit feeling, that thing you see in churches and whatnot. It was like that. And I knew, luckily, This is what I want to pass through these videos. I knew from experience not to be scared of this. Just let it happen. Let it pass over me. Let it go. Let it do its thing. Don't fight it. Don't sit there going, oh no, 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 no. This is horrible, horrible, horrible. Just let it happen. Even though you think let it happen, you still do think them thoughts. But I let it pass. Then I got angry. Angry at everything. Everything was a problem. I still feel it now, like irritable, angry. And I've learned also that is part. It's like when you see these movies. I know I like using the movie analogy a lot, but they're like they give you a good example of what I'm talking about. In these movies where somebody calibrates their whatever, their computer or something, or they calibrate their, if they're a robot, they calibrate their emotions. So they go through a gamut of all this different stuff. They go through all these different experiences to calibrate it and to find and to know where the edges are, where the limits are, so that then it can stop and start finding the center again. But you can't get the center of something without knowing where the edges are. And that's why the emotional flare-ups come. It's in my stomach now. There's nothing, there's nothing happening. I'm totally safe. These are the things you've got to say as well. I'm totally safe. Remind yourself you're totally safe. If you're not, get away from that situation when you feel like this, because you'll amplify it 2 or 3 times more. Get away. If you're at work, tell your boss. If they don't listen, get out of the job, because it's not your problem, that's their problem. Get another job. Get a disability-friendly job if you're going through withdrawal. Or take a break. You can take a break, can't you? Take a break from work. But be around people, so that when you calibrate, you're not on your own. And that, because you can go to some scary places. And sometimes you need to be on your own. But your body, your mind, your emotional state is its own witch doctor. It knows exactly what to do to heal. And the reason we don't heal so fast is because we get in our own, we get in the way of that with our know-it-all fear response. Am I going to be like this forever? No, what I have to do is do this. I have to get away from this. I have to do drugs. I have to drink alcohol. I have to eat food, whatever. We get in our way. All you need to do is just sit there. Sit there, hopefully with somebody there to keep an eye on you, and let it do its worst. Because it's gonna. If you fight against it, thinking that fighting against it, you're going to gain ground, you're not. You're just delaying the inevitable. It's got to test the extreme boundaries of your limits, so it can relax. What is it? It's your emotional core that has been messed up through antidepressants. The 20th century cure to depression and anxiety that never made me feel happy. They never took my depression away. In fact, I got depression from them. So they shouldn't be called antidepressants. They should be called depressants. Think about it. It's ridiculous, isn't it? And the doctor will deny that. You'll tell the doctor, and he'll tell you to your face that you're not sure what you're talking about, are you? Sort of like, you're being misled. You stop going online, blah blah blah, and you end up nodding and going like this, like a good little dog. And more than any doctor, all the doctors on earth, yourself. your healing inner person. You know your own inner doctor. I'm not saying not go to doctors because they have answers. Stay away from antidepressants, so stay away from them. Yeah, because this is what happens to you, what's happening to me now. And yeah, I carry on reminding myself there's a lot worse things that can happen in life. There's a lot worse things that can happen in life. There's people out there who have a full mind, everything, and yet their body just doesn't work. It's locked in syndrome. It's scary. Imagine being locked in and they put you on antidepressants. Imagine that. And that happens. You know, oh, I think he's depressed, look. They're saying that about a person who doesn't move, who doesn't talk, whose only bodily movement is their eyes. So they put them on antidepressants. Imagine going through withdrawal when you can't tell the know-it-all nurse who carries it going, hello, like this all the time. And the doctor who comes in the room and, oh, yes, I think we'll do this quick so I can go and play golf. All that sort of thing. Imagine being, you know, there is worse that can happen in life. I mean, Helen Keller, she's not a worse example. She's an amazing story, isn't she? Helen Keller, I don't know if anybody knows who I mean by Helen Keller, the 1860s woman who at 19 months, went blind and deaf. And she was living in a world that was governed by men. It was all about men. There was no place for women except at the men's feet, you know, doing what the men wanted them to do, which was like cook, keep the house tidy, blah, 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 keep out of the way. And but basically, she was blind and deaf. You hear what I'm saying, don't you? Blind and deaf. And she became one of the most amazing women to ever have lived. She became a teacher, or was it a lecturer? She became an author, and she became a motivational talker, for not just for women, for people. You know, she said some amazing things. I always remind myself of people like her, who had nothing. She couldn't see and she couldn't hear. What did she have? So I've had people say, oh, she was in a wealthy family. That made it worse because she had to keep out the way, because wealthy families in the 18th century were truly, truly ashamed of having disabled people. In fact, it was still on the edge of people being possessed and whatnot. That's what they thought was happening back then. So they'd stick them in asylums. And the asylums back then weren't asylums, really. It was a hole where people went and took their embarrassing children and to forget about them, so they could go out into high society and do what they wanted to do, while the disabled child, who in our day and age would probably do a lot better, was going into this house and was never seen again, living on their own feces, eating food that was probably not good for them, being abused by the carers because there was no way to, you know, what the carers said was what the truth was. So, you know, unless the carers were extremely nice people, which not everybody is, are they? So these poor people were stuck in the asylums. And that's what it was like. That's when Helen Keller was there, and she would have been put in one. But she was taught how to get out of her head. But how do you express yourself when you don't know what is out there? You can't see or hear. It amazes me. So whatever I'm feeling can be put into the, you know, with the calibration, can be calibrated into a way of thinking. It's okay, because imagine if I was blind and deaf. Imagine if I was in the what did they call it again? The syndrome where you can't move and you're on antidepressants. Imagine that. So what I'm trying to say is, you are far from finished. You are, if you're going through protracted withdrawal now, you are far from being at the end of everything. There's always hope, and you're not on the edge where hope is just a glimmer. Keep going. You'll see what I mean. Keep going. The effect of the protracted withdrawal will reorder you into a stronger person. Definitely. Nothing can touch you when you've been through this. Nothing can hurt you. If people laugh and think it's, they walk away as they're commenting and, them types, it won't bother you. Because you've seen evil. You've felt it. You've lived with it. So people just being ignorant, it doesn't bother you. Your boss who's a bully, blah, 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 things like that. But at the same time, you don't have to live with somebody who's doing that to you. While you're going through protracted withdrawal, you don't have to work with people who are ignorant. Because why should they care what you're going through? Why should they? And they probably won't. They'll probably talk about you, saying, when you're having a meltdown, that you're just a drama queen and blah, 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 things like that. So take a break. Take a break, because it will end anyway. The job will end anyway. And it will end a lot more miserably if you don't do it yourself on your own terms. Take a break. And if you want to say to your employer, I'm going through a hard time, I need some time out, I'm going. And just do what you have to do. But yeah, so I was going through that phase where I'm crying a lot. I'm going through. And then directly after that, it's anger. And it's funny because you don't know what it is. You end up doing it's like a tantrum. Everything's annoying. Your whole body. Sounds, things like that. Luckily, I've got good control, so I'm never angry in front of people. Because I know how that feels, so I don't do it. But on my own, which I am today, I'm on my own. I'm about to go out to the library. The anger's stopping me from getting out, so I'm taking a deep breath. I'm going to do a little bit of meditation. Did I say transcendental meditation on the other video? Transcendental meditation, very promising. Don't try to meditate. Just follow the instructions of transcendental meditation. Repeat the words inside your mind. You don't say them out loud. You don't need to say them out loud. You can if you want. But the whole point is that you're not trying. You're just doing. And over time, probably within your first session, you'll naturally start meditating. Naturally. And then your mind will go off and you'll think about what you're having for tea. Just keep these words going around your head, and then at some point you'll go, I'm supposed to be meditating. You'll bring it back. Don't go like that, because then it has the opposite effect. You get anxious, and that meditation just does not work with anxiety. It's the whole point is to get rid of anxiety. The fear last night, where I thought there was people in the room, and it was creating this fear. And every second, do you know when you get a jump scare like that? It was doing that to me. And I kept on thinking there was something behind me. So when I turned round, there was something there then. Never saw anything, but it was just on the edge of my perception. And you've got to ignore it. It is psychosis. If somebody says to you, you've seen spirits, blah, 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 just ignore them. They might be right, but my point is, you've got to live a life. So there's nothing wrong with being skeptical and just saying, I'm just going through a hard time. It's psychosis. Let me be. So anyway, my journey. So I'm getting off the medication now. I'm going to try. And for anybody there's a lot of people, I've found at least 3 or 4 in the last couple of days, who go on YouTube, and their success story is that they found out that trying to get off antidepressants was wrong, and that they ended up just going back on them. I've been there, I've gone through that process, and I know what happens at the end of it. The antidepressants stop working. And I know it's scary hearing that, but it's the truth. They'll stop working. They will not give you that escape the next time you start getting upset and ill and you think about coming off them. And the next time you try to get off them, or maybe 2 years into them, they'll stop working. And it's like cocaine or heroin or class A drugs. No, the drugs don't work. They will stop working. And I would rather you taper when they're working so that they have some effect so that you can gradually come down. Because if you go into the not working stage, which I was, where I developed all these things that I'd never had in my life before. It was in 2019 they started. So that when I saw the doctor and I finally started getting off the paroxetine, it was 2021. And what happened was my body had already started rejecting the drugs because they'd stopped working. But I'm still putting these drugs in me. So the calibration was way off. I was FUCKED'd. I was really messed up because when I started coming off the drugs and they took me off them too quick, I should be dead, really, what I went through. You know, screaming on the streets, having the police called on me, trying to hang myself, kicking the neighbour's door through. I didn't kick it through. I was kicking it, trying to kick it through because I thought they were in my attic and I wanted to catch them. Glad I don't have to face them no more because I've moved, but I feel so ashamed of that. Going to the shop and buying this big bag of sweets, right? And leaving them outside people's doors. Because in my mind, I had to win them over because they were all my enemies. And I didn't even know them. But I knew who they were in my mind. And like I said, in my mind, they were climbing in the attic every night. So I looked at the attic wall. And my idea was thinking, if I can prove that they're in there, I can get the police out. So I went up there, and it was, now in hindsight, it was obvious there was no person going to get through that wall. And yet, I come up with some theory that they were climbing between the gaps in the walls, that they would suck in their breath like this, and they would get through the gaps in the walls, and they would come through, and that anything's possible. Obviously, you think that, don't you? Anything's possible, and they were coming through, and they were sitting up there and laughing at me. And I'm shouting. Just because you know what button to press with me doesn't mean you should press it, because you're killing me. And I was talking about a parrot I didn't have. Saying you're killing my parrot. I don't know why I was saying that. I think I was trying to get them to be empathic. You know, people that weren't even there. I remember seeing kind of, I've got a memory of it, and I don't know whether it's like the memory is like what it was. It was in the kitchen. I was convinced somebody was climbing my wall because I lived on the first floor. I was convinced somebody was climbing my wall. They were going to get into the veranda that was out there and then work on my door and climb through. And I could see them kind of in loop. Every time I'd look, they were back. Just climbing the wall again, coming over. So I called the police, told them something, and the police were really good. They come out and they knew straight away, because I told them I was suffering from psychosis. At the same time, I was telling them this person was trying to get in through the window. While they were there, I was telling them, I said, he's there now, and he's gonna get in, and he's waiting until I go out. And he's going to kill my cat, because I had a cat, and he's going to steal everything. I can't go out the house, and I have to get out the house. So they says to me, not the police, my carer came and said, we're going to have to put you in we're going to have to admit you into the hospital. And I said, I can't leave my cat. She says, is anybody who can look after the cat? I says, no. And she says, why? Are you scared? You know, you'll only be there 2 days. I says, they're going to kill my cat, you know, and they're going to come in and steal everything. There was nobody there. There never was anybody there. But it's funny how you believe there is. So this is, so I'm starting to tell you about 5% of what it was like, the withdrawal. It's awful. My stomach's turning talking about it. And yet, I'm a survivor. I survived. I did try to kill myself. And trust me when I say this, right? Anybody who sees this video, if anybody sees this video, if ever you think about killing yourself, right, there's this problem. Obviously, you've heard this before. Suicide is the one thing that you can't fix by doing it. I don't know. Well, basically, you know, you can't reverse it, can you? But what was worse for me was the mental side of it. The moment I'd accepted that I really was going to do it, my already fragile confidence and hopefulness of whatever I was going to hope for just went out the window. It's because you're ashamed. You're ashamed of yourself for going there. And you feel that feeling when you're in a room with people, you feel guilty, that guilt feel, it's awful. And it just makes you worse. But for me, luckily, the more pain I got, the stronger I got, the more effort I put in. Not because I wanted to survive, I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to die. I was researching every day. I wanted to go to Digitas, that suicide place in Switzerland. And then I tried to buy a pod. I was looking for, I can remember doing all this. The suicide pod, you buy it, you put it in your room like a piece of furniture. It's got all nice designs and patterns on it. You put it in your room and you climb in it, you turn it on and you die. You know? And for people who, at the end of life, that's their choice. I totally respect that. But for when you go through psychosis and withdrawal, it's not the answer, because you will get better. You will get better. But it's a long journey. It's brain damage. It's a long, long journey. I think that's enough for this video. But basically, the message of this video was the anger and the tears just came out of nowhere. And they've not completely come out. They're still in my stomach. I can feel them. There's like that feeling like when you remember when, sometimes this is what it's like, maybe times 10 though. It's when you were a child and you went on holiday with people you don't know. You remember that homesick feeling? And it took away all your joy and everything, and you couldn't stop crying. You couldn't stop wanting to go home. You might not have felt that, but a lot of people have felt homesickness. I have when I was about 16, quite old for it. I just felt it. I didn't really suffer from it, but I felt it, and it's the same feeling. And I think the doctors call it fight or flight. You don't know whether to fight or you don't know whether to run. So you're sort of stuck in this limbo. And that's where the meditation comes in. The deep breathing, amino acids. I've got some coming today. What they call taurine. I remember the name. I've heard a lot about taurine. I've tried L-eithine, L-eithine. I can never say the name right. I've tried that, and yes, it worked. But after about 3 days, they stopped working, so then you have to stagger them. I'm going to try taurine. I heard that the experience was night and day, and that somebody actually said these are the closest to a cure to protracted withdrawal he's ever had. Wow. I'm going to do a video on these. I'm getting them today, and I'll see what happens. I'll take 2. You watch. It'll trigger, because you can trigger your psychosis. You can, I went to a party at Christmas once. I had 4 whiskies. I'm not a drinker. The next day when I was having the hangover, I was in super depression. And when you're in depression, you label it as the world, really. You think it's not depression. And you think it's going to be like that forever. It's this dark hole. And all you can do really is go home, be kind to yourself, treat yourself like a baby. Go home, go to bed. Get in your pajamas, go to bed, stick something on the TV. Luckily, people can do that these days. Stick something on the TV and hibernate. And you'll be sitting there thinking, I want to get up, blah, blah, blah. Ignore it. Then meditate if you can, or just hibernate. Watch a box set. And that got me through. But you don't want to watch it. You don't want to watch it. You want to you want to scream and you want to cry and you want to do yourself harm and everything. Just think of yourself as a big bear and go home and hibernate. That's good advice. It works. It might take a day or two, but then you'll wake up one morning and it's gone. It's gone. The depression goes. The longest I've had the depression in one sitting was 3 months without a break. Like I said, I felt protracted withdrawal for nearly 2 years non-stop. But there's a whole rainbow of symptoms, and they swim around in you. But the depression was the one thing that I hated. I hate it now when I get it. It makes you feel, and I've got to try and put it into a word because it's helpful to you watching. If somebody watches this, depression, I know how you feel when you feel like it, that everything's a giant grey cloud. Kind of like that scene in, do you know the film? Have you ever seen the film Jacob's Ladder? Don't watch it if you're feeling depressed. It's basically a film about a man who's dead. He's on the cusp of death, and he's being sought after by the devil wants him, and also heaven wants him. So he's in this limbo, and this limbo is like a depressive state where he can't quite connect with people all around him, but he's not really sure who they are. He has fleeting moments with his wife that don't last, and then he's back in this psychotic episode with these demons around him that don't look like demons, they look kind of like people with horns sometimes and things like that. But scary. It's depressing and scary, and it's very close to how I feel. Somebody who's made that knows depression, knows anxiety, knows neurodivergence, when you don't feel like you're part of society. Somebody knows the feeling. But that's it, basically. That's it. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go out in a minute. I'm going to call my wife, my beautiful wife. I'm going to call her, talk to her, and then going to go out to the library. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for watching. If anybody watches this, thank you. Bye now.